see, when I see, and I know it's yours. It's okay, see how far you go. It's okay, I'm so glad you found me. I can see, I can tell, when I know it's yours. All right. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon from wherever it is you're joining from. I am very excited to be here today. As always, today is day 3 of the freelance consultant training. As you're aware, this is the pilot phase of the training. We intend to have this training every first of a new month. So this is the first pilot phase. We hope that it will get better and better as we go on, on this journey of freelancing. So today, I'm just going to go right on into it. I'm just going to go straight on that. The idea is to have these video presentation not be more than 30 minutes or at most 45 minutes. And then we can have the Q&A. And then you can do the quiz and you would submit it. As you're aware, we already did day 1. Just so to explain a little bit, because I hear a lot of people calling or WhatsApping or sending messages to get clarification as to what is day 1, what is day 2, what is day 3, like that. Now, the idea is that the entire program is going to be for 30 days. Don't forget that we had insisted, we mentioned many times that this training is both a theory and a practical segment. So how we planned it is the fact that there's going to be a presentation for about 15 days and there's going to be practicals for about 15 days. So what it means is that on day 1, which is the introductory part, we do the presentation, the training is done, the Q&A is done, and then you are giving the quiz to take home or to take some time, or take the next day rather, to do it. So the next day now is day 2. The next day, which is a squeeze day, is day 2. So just as today now is day 3, tomorrow would be a quiz day, which is day 4, and then the next day like that. So there would be a break in between where classes would not happen, but the next day when classes does not happen is when you are expected to do the quiz and submit it. Like I told you, for this initial batch, the idea was to have our all the trainees participate on our e-learning platform, which is still at the finishing stage. So because we're not able to get you to enroll for this training on our e-learning platform, you're not able to do the quiz. And that's the reason why we're giving you the quiz in PDF and you have to do it and email it. I mean, we cannot, it's not sustainable to have the assignment being done via email. And that's the reason why the e-learning platform will come in handy. It's very simple, easy to use. As soon as it's fully ready, maybe halfway into this training, we would be able to usher you guys to the e-learning platform where you can do the training there. We do the Q&A as well, and then you can now submit your quiz right on that portal. It's going to be easy, for everyone to be able to access. But in the meantime, probably for another 1 or 2 weeks, we're going to have this presentation in this manner. We're going to have the Q&A via Zoom as we've been doing, and then we're going to have you do the assignments and email it. And then maybe when we're sure that the e-learning platform is ready, then we can now have all of us transferred on there. But in the meantime, we're already having fun. I can tell from your feedback, from your testimonials, from your comments, from your interactions with me, from the gratitude message and all that. I can tell that you are all fired up and you are all excited about this journey. I am even more excited than you are, because I mean, it makes sense to carry a lot of people, along the journey, especially for me, since this is the path that I have chosen. And like I keep saying, I mean, no disrespect, with all humility, this training, you and I know, should not be offered for free. But you already know our vision, you know our mandate, you know why we're doing what we're doing, and we're solely sold out for this. That's why we're doing it. If I, in my personal business, was going to commercialize this training, trust me, I will not take less than 150,000 for it. And that's the reason I am not really bothered, because I know that the people who really do need it will come for it. And like I said in the day 1 of our training, that as much as poverty reduction is our core area of interest or is our focus, We want to help as much people as we can help. But again, it will be easier. You will make our work easier if you meet us halfway at least. If you just make yourself available, try to have data, try to have the tools that we use for this training, and just try to, engage and participate, and most importantly, take action. If you will do that, that's pretty much the only price that we require for you to pay in exchange for this value that you're giving us. And like I also mentioned, we're about 1,000 plus of us who have registered for this training. If at the end of the day, only 100 is actually able to get to the finish line and are able to implement effectively, we would have done a great and fantastic job. And in fact, I have a challenge for a few of you. I'm going to be needing to call for a challenge where I'm going to have, say, between 10 and 20 people who are interested in freelancing as a marketing affiliate with our organization. And I'm going to put you to a challenge and ask you to carry out certain assignments and see what sort of feedback you get, see what sort of results you will get. The idea is to be able to help me personally to support at least 10 people at the end of this training who do not have laptops, who can acquire them. I also want to use this challenge to be able to help at least 10 people who do not have jobs raise between 500 to 1 million naira within the 90 days challenge that we're going to set. I will put that information on our public platform, on our WhatsApp groups, so that you can see and know if that looks like you and if it is something that you're going to be willing to do. Now, with that said, let's dive straight into it. So like I said, today is day 3 of our freelance consultant training. And today, the next module we're looking at is our why. Now, I believe that if you want to do anything in this life, it is very important to know your why, okay? So we want to know why freelancing. Why should you even be interested in freelancing at all? Why do you want to, you personally, I'm talking to you who is listening, who is partaking in this training. Why do you want to do freelancing? What is your why? So we're going to look at that. We're going to have a little background about how freelancing came about, where things are at the moment, where it's going, and then we can now relate it to why you should be a part of the freelancing or gig industry if you think that you fit or you have the criteria, you have the characteristics of being a freelancer. So before we start, let's go back. Let's look at a little bit of the background of freelancing. Now, there was something that happened a couple of years ago, because everyone knows about the COVID pandemic era, right? Where we were all struck and surprised by a pandemic, by a disease called COVID. And when that happened, it shook the whole world. So everyone was required to stay indoors. We're not allowed to go to work. We're not allowed to involve themselves with social activities, and the like. So it means that people have to still survive, right? People still have to work, okay? So the pandemic actually saw a lot of businesses and employees confused about what to do. Most people even lost their jobs. Actually, some businesses never came back to life after the pandemic, right? Some people lost full-time jobs, and some were actually forced to have reduced hours. So what that means is that in countries where jobs are being measured or work is being measured by the hours, some people were not able to work in the normal regular hours that they work. So if, for example, you work 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, some people were now required to work 3 hours, 4 hours. And what that means is if you're going to be working less hours, it's definitely also going to be reduced pay, right? So it affected a lot of people's personal economy, so to speak. So, but during this time, many people opted out for freelancing as a means of sustenance, especially those who have skills that they could offer with the use of the internet only, especially those who have service-oriented kind of skill. Of course, products were still sold, delivery was still being done, but a lot of people who have skills that they could offer to people without necessarily having to interface with them physically or go to their office or meet physically, they were able to still have a means of sustenance, right? And that is what the freelancing or gig industry is about. A larger part of freelancing as we speak at the moment, though it is still evolving, is tied around service. It's mostly around service, especially for people who offer consulting service, tech service, pretty much things that are not very tangible, okay? But however, beyond the COVID period, it looks as though the trend of freelancing or remote working has come to stay. Like I said earlier, freelancing was there prior to COVID. But when COVID came, it made it even more stronger, or it showed to a lot of people that it's actually possible for you to offer your services or for you to work remotely. Okay, so this is more or less like the background from where freelancing gained strength and gained popularity. Okay, so with that being said, let's just look a little bit at some of the stats or statistics to highlight the adoption and the popularity now of freelancing, especially in the recent years. Some of the statistics I'm going to be presenting here today would be more would be seen to be statistics from a lot of the developed countries, right? Quote unquote developed countries, right? And that's because they seem to be the ones who have data. They seem to be the ones who can measure data than the rest of us in Asia or Africa, basically. But again, that is for us, we think that whenever there's a statistics like that, it's more or less like sampling. So it means that whatever is happening in some part of the world is very likely to happen to the rest of the other parts of the world, especially if it is coming from the other end, from a developed country. Of course, it trickles down, to the rest of the world. So according to a report, right, 60% of freelancers are earning more than they did in their old full-time jobs. I repeat, 60% of freelancers are earning more than they did in their old jobs or in their full-time jobs. And this is the reason why many people are actually choosing and preferring to go solo, because 60% is a good number to say that the possibility of earning more as a freelancer is even high. Okay. Now there's a report by Statista. That's the name of the agency. They found out that by the year 2027, the majority of the US workforce will be freelancing. In the next 3 years, in 2027, the majority of the American workforce would be freelancing. So it means that it's even here. So it's not that far. It's not as if they're saying in the next 20 years or in 2040. In the next by the year 2027, majority of the US workforce will be freelancing. Now, I think that's not enough. Let's even look at some of the big agencies. I'm just going to use one example, especially in tech. There's a crazy stat currently right now that says that most of the staff or the workforce, I beg your pardon, in Google consists of 54% freelancers and just 46 permanent employees. I'll say that again. So in Google, everybody knows Google, right? Google is the platform where all of us go to research. They're the ones providing all the tech support that we need globally across the world now. That Google's workforce consists of 54% of freelancers and just 46% of permanent staff. So Google as a company has more freelancers than it has permanent employees. Now, what does this tell you? This means that the industry, the gig industry, the freelancing industry is growing at a rapid state. So for some of us in Africa and Asia who may not even know what freelancing is, I feel like we're being left behind, because that is the way people are beginning to see to work. That's the best way people are beginning to consider to work in this day and time. Now, in the past, or in the past couple of days, I'm sure that freelancing was not the word that was used, but I know about consultancy. I know about, even me as a person, before I knew about freelancing, I knew I used to consult for government. And I feel that the fact that I don't work full-time for government, the fact that I don't work full-time for a private agency, and I go to solve some basic problems for them, I had actually been freelancing long before I even know that there was something called freelancing or there was a gig industry per se. So in the past, you probably would just call it consulting. You probably would not say it's freelancing, right? But again, now, because there is a gig industry, people are doing all kinds of things. You can even be a hairdresser or as a freelancer. You can be a photographer as a freelancer. You can be a makeup artist, that sort of stuff. So you can actually offer this service without necessarily having a shop or having an office where people can come to you, yeah? Now, one of the other things that I want you to know is that at the moment, it might look as though most of the freelancing services are more around tech or are more around certain services. But I can assure you, and I think that there is already findings that indicates that there is no debt, there is no limitation, there is no scarcity of the types of remote jobs that we can all do, because very soon a lot of industry would start. I mean, people, it will begin to rub off on a lot of other industry as well. In other industry that we didn't think that freelancing strategy would come close to them, we will find that very soon that will begin to happen. Okay, so this is what the statistics says generally. Okay, that 60% of the people who work in the US are earning more money as freelancers than as full-time workers. And that is also statistics that says that by 2027, majority of the US workforce would be freelancers. And currently, as we speak, Google, as a case study, has 54% of its employees as freelancers other than full-time worker. To conclude also, there is no limitation, there is no debt. As a freelancing gig industry is growing, very soon, almost every industry will have room, for freelancers. So now let's look again at some of the reasons why you should consider freelancing. We have touched on this before in our day one, but for emphasis sake, let's just have look at some of the reasons. Now, I want you to know that not everyone would relate with these reasons, okay? So some people might relate to reason 1, some might relate to reason 2, some might relate to 5 of the reasons, some might relate to 10, some might even relate to all. In some of us who are very passionate about freelancing, I think we pretty much relate to all, because probably there are certain situations or experiences that we're not fond of, or we don't like, that has even made us decided to be solo, to be independent, and to be freelancing almost about all my life. Yes, I've done full-time job before. I have worked as a programs manager in a radio station before. I have worked as a general manager in a contracting firm before. I have tried to do full-time job, 9-to-5 jobs, but I figured it was not my thing, because it didn't allow me the flexibility to be able to do the other things that I love, basically. And I'm that person who is a bit spontaneous. I don't like to do routines. I don't like to do one thing over and over again. I'm a bit passionate. I'm a bit resilient. So if I do a regular full-time job, it will feel as though they're keeping me in a box. Not everyone is like that. Some people would prefer a regular career job and go through the ranks. And that's why it is very important by the end of this segment to do an evaluation and an analysis, to be able to do a self-check to be sure whether this kind of job, freelancing or the gig industry, is actually something for you or not. So now let's look at some of the reasons why freelancing. First of all, like I said, the most common or popular reason why people freelance is because they can work remotely. They can work from anywhere they choose, okay? Some people can even be working from the beach. Some can work from their house. Nursing mothers who want to stay with their children can work and still earn money and not just the housewife, right? So the number one most popular reason is the fact that you can work from anywhere. The number 2 most popular reason also is the fact that they are flexible hours. So there are some countries where you have to work 10 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours, 7 hours. Minimum is about 7 hours, right? But some people don't like it. Some people don't. Personally, I don't like to. When I started traveling, and the first job I wanted to try, because of course I needed to survive, was a full-time job that has me stay in the office for 10 good hours. It was crazy, right? I don't like that sort of arrangement. I like to work on flexible hours. What is important is that, is there a problem that needs a solution? If I am capable of providing that solution, then let me be. Don't tie me to the hours. Just tie me to solving the problems and pay me for solving the problems, and I'm good. So many people chose freelancing because of the flexible hours. They can work from anywhere and they can work at any time, basically, and all they probably just require is to solve the problem, right? Another reason is because it's self-employment. So it means that you're going to be your own boss. Nobody's going to boss you around. Nobody's going to tell you what to do. You're working for yourself. You decide when you want to work. You decide when you don't want to work, that sort of thing, okay? Another thing that I love about freelancing is the fact that you have numerous clients. You can have numerous customers, numerous companies that you work for. So you're not tied to just one employer. And what that means is that you might even be able to have more income potentials, okay? So if you have multiple clients, it means more income potential. So most people prefer this because, if I'm a lawyer, rather than having me go and sit down in one chamber or in one law firm, I can offer my services to multiple individuals, multiple corporations as a freelance lawyer rather than staying in just one company. So the income potentials is also another reason. Then you can choose your project. You can choose who to work with, who not to work with. You can choose the kind of work you want to do. You can choose, basically. So you can target your marketing efforts towards choosing the set of people. So for example, I love to work for government because I feel like it's more profitable for me. The only challenge with working with government is that your payment takes a long time before it's processed, and all that. There's a lot of bureaucracy, but I have known the way to navigate around it. So working with government is one of the areas or one of the segments of customers that I really love to work with. Some people might choose to just work with individuals or with the private sector or with small businesses or with medium businesses. At the end of the day, it depends on who you choose to work with. But the bottom line is that if you are a freelancer, you have the tendency to be able to choose the kind of project and the kind of company that you can work for. Another reason is job security. Of course, if you work by yourself, you're a self-employed person, you don't lose your job. You don't wake up one day and your boss says, hey, I don't like your face anymore. Or, hey, you can't work here anymore. Or you made a mistake, or you didn't meet up to target, or something went wrong somewhere. People lose their jobs, or there's economic crunch, or a company folded up, or government, anything can happen and you can lose your job, right? If you're a freelancer, there's job security. The only thing you need is to have the skill, have the solutions that you're offering, and you're good to go. The next thing that is a good reason for many people is that there is self-management. So it means that you manage yourself. You don't have a situation where someone is still telling you what to do, basically, right? So you know how you can manage your time, what you should do in the morning, what you should do in the afternoon, and stuff like that. When you can go to relax, when you can go for recreation, and when you can, basically that. Then you would avoid office politics. That is also something I hated when I used to work full-time. I hated the fact that once in a while your colleagues are murmuring, you come to the office, maybe when you come late, somebody does not know why you are late and they are murmuring, or maybe when there is a situation, something just most times happens that activates that office politics, right? So basically, I do not like it. And so is also one of the reasons why I do not like full-time job. Then you can build remote work skills. So definitely as you go on in your freelancing career, it is imperative that you consistently build your skill. So every time you are not fully engaged, even when you're fully engaged, you want to take some time and work on building your skills, whatever skills you have, if it's communication skills, if it is marketing skills, if it is tech skills, if it is ICT skills, you have to find ways to remotely build your skills, or even to go to school and be better at what service that you provide. Personal development, same thing as building skills. You have to look out for opportunities to ensure that you're building yourself, on a daily, on a monthly, on a yearly basis as much as possible. Another reason is that you have workload control. So it means that you can choose not to take in as many clients. You can choose to take in 2 clients per time, 3 clients per time. You can choose to take 10 clients per time. It's up to you. You choose how you can manage your workload. Another reason why people chose freelancing is that it can help you build interpersonal skills. So there are going to be other team members working on a project, okay? You are a freelancer, you might be a data analyst, there might be somebody who's a photographer, there is a video production person, there's a web design person, there is a digital marketing person, there is all kinds of people, right? So the fact that you're a freelancer working with those sets of people, it will help you build your interpersonal relationship with others as well. There are some full-time jobs that you have that you eventually, or you probably may not ever engage with any customer or any clients, depending on what segment you are. So for example, you're an accountant, right? You might not be exposed to speaking with a lot of people. So interpersonal skills might be something that you might not be privy to. You would also build your portfolio. One of the other reasons is that you build your portfolio. So if you have a client that you've worked with, and you work with another client, and you work with another client, all that is portfolio building. You're building your portfolio and your profile and your experience that would help the other clients who will come after the previous clients, to work with you. I love this one a lot more. A freelancer allows you a better lifestyle. There's something called a work-life balance, right? Sometimes full-time jobs does not allow you that. It does not allow you enough time to bond with your children. It does not allow you enough time to go and have a vacation or socialize, or do some of the extracurricular that you did. Because like I said, if you do a 9 to 5 job and you live in a state, for example, like Lagos, you're in the traffic on your way to work. When you're coming back, you're on the traffic again. You get back home, you're tired. If you're someone who plays football or plays table tennis or like to do something, it is almost unrealistic to be able to have you do other extracurricular when you work full time, depending on the hours, of your engagement. Multiple source of income. Like I said earlier, there's one particular module that I love in this our training that talks about the low-hanging fruits. So for example, if you are a lawyer, I keep using a lawyer because I like lawyers. I told you I'm training. I want to train to be a lawyer as well. If you're a lawyer, for example, and you're offering legal services to your clients, there are some other small things you can do on the side. You can help people register businesses because you have the legal backing to do so. You can help people take care of their tax. You can help people, you can even educate people on some of their legal rights. There are some low-hanging fruits in any skill or any discipline at all. So that way, you are able to have multiple sources of income. So in whatever business you do, whether you're a graphic designer, whether you're going to be a data analyst, you have to be able to think deeply, critically, and find out those low-hanging fruits that you can, or those multiple sources of incomes that, apart from your main engagement or your main solution or your main service, you can have other small things you can do that can serve as multiple sources of income. Being a freelancer builds your confidence. The fact that you're going to be interacting with a lot of clients and engaging with them and providing them different services would help you build your confidence. So freelancing gives you the opportunity to build your confidence, okay? Then another thing it does is that it allows you the opportunity for diverse exposure. So if you're going to be working with all kinds of people, sometimes you might even work with people who are not domiciled in your home country. That way, you gain some level of exposure talking to all kinds of people, because by the time you're brainstorming, rubbing minds with them, you're having some level of, experience and exposure, so to speak. Then finally, there is some high level of compensation and earning control. So like I also mentioned earlier, where you have a couple of gigs, okay? Like for example, those guys who are going to be joining us or who would find companies that they can affiliate with and become affiliate marketers, for example, there are certain level of compensation, benefits, and earnings that they get for the kind of services that they offer. So depends on the industry that you're in, you're going to be able to find out what sort of compensation, what sort of commissions, what sort of earnings, what sort of incentives you can have for the services that you offer. So now that we've looked at some of the many reasons why you should freelance, please take some time and listen to this presentation again so that you would be sure to understand all these dynamics and ask questions and challenge some of the thoughts, especially as it concerns you, before you make progress as to taking on this journey completely. So let's just look at a few frustrating scenarios, right? Let's look at a few scenarios that actually pushes a lot of people, especially in my Africa, in my Asia, most of these third world countries, as they call us. Let's look at some of the scenarios. It might not be the case for everyone, right? What is important for you is to choose the ones that are your frustrations, choose the ones that are your scenarios, choose the ones that contributes to your why, okay? So some of the things you might ask yourself is, say, for example, you're someone who just had another very hard day in the office, okay? Especially if you're working with, not just like you've always had, because these things sometimes are occurring issues, right? If you have a hard day, or if you regularly have hard days at the office, especially if you're working with ungrateful bosses, or you have superiors who are usually naggy or who stresses you, which is a common thing actually, because I think there's a statistics that says out of 10 bosses, 7 of them are usually very difficult because they expect you to over-deliver, especially in the private sector, right? So if you're someone who's working in a very hard situation, a very hard environment, you have ungrateful or naggy or difficult bosses, okay? Or you're even working in a very boring government establishment that does not challenge you, or you're someone who works in a bank, for example. You know how bank work can be stressful. You go to work early, you close late, okay? And if you're a salesperson in the bank, for example, they give you a unreasonable target that you're not able to meet up with. Or even if, let's say, all those other issues are not yours, and let's say the main challenge that you go through every day is battling through the elements of traffic on a daily basis, and you get back home late and you're exhausted and tired, and like I said, the only thing you want to do is just to eat, have a shower, and sleep, and be ready again for that battle the next day. all of this kind of scenario can be mentally draining and frustrating. But let's look at the other side of some of the frustrations that can happen. So let's say you are someone who is even unemployed, okay? You have tried searching for jobs severally with no luck, or you even have a job, but the job underpays you. You've not been able to find the kind of job that you're excited about and that pays you well enough, okay? Or pays you enough that you think you deserve. So sometimes people are unemployed, they are not able to find jobs. Sometimes they have jobs and they're just trying to keep the body and soul together. Now, if any of these scenarios are you, or if any of these scenarios looks like you, you're not alone. There are millions of people all over the world, not only in Africa, not only in Nigeria, who are going through the same situation. And this is one of the main reasons why most people in this situation consider to venture into the realm of freelancing or working from home or working remotely, so that they can challenge themselves to earn the kind of money, work in the kind of environment, have the kind of flexibility and liberty that they want, or that they, prefer or desire for themselves, so to speak. So now we've looked at all the craziness, right? So you're deciding now to freelance. Let's say you have thought about all these issues and you've been able to identify your why, right? And you're deciding that you're going to go into freelancing. We want you to know, I personally want you to know that freelancing can be a really life-changing decision. I can tell you that for a fact. But again, it comes with consequences. Again, it is not for everyone. So yes, this training is being provided for thousands of people, but at the end of the training, there would be some information that will be very valuable to you if you are that one person who is not cut out for freelancing or do not have the characteristics or the features, I beg your pardon, of being a freelancer. So, but if you have done all the evaluation, right, and you've taken a decision, okay, that you want to become a freelance, one of the other things that we would endear you to do again is to do the comparison of the pros and the cons of freelancing, okay, and be finally truly sure that the freelancing path is for you. The first question I would recommend that you ask yourself is, what kind of person are you? Are you that person who is who gets things done? Are you that person who people can go to solve problems? Are you that person who anytime you sit down, you're just trying to think about solutions to solve problems? Are you that person who is skilled, who is gifted, you have certain things you can do, or you have even trained on certain areas, and it can be anything, like I said. It doesn't have to be tech only. It doesn't have to be the recommended web design, graphic design, data analytics. No, it can be anything. Like I said, it can be a childminder, it can be a cleaning service, it can be a personal cook, it can be a makeup artist, it can be a photographer, it can be anything. So I don't want you to limit yourself to only the options that we have available, especially for those guys that we want to give the opportunity to learn some of these skills for free. Freelancing can be anything. And that's why we're going to help you through how you can we can help you start taking journals, and start dumping all the ideas that comes to your mind, all the things that you're motivated by, how you can actually do the self-check to be sure that the freelancing path is for you, okay? But generally speaking, if you are a determined person, if you're a persistent person, if you're resilient, if you're passionate, and most importantly, if you are entrepreneurial in your thinking, and especially if you don't have a job, or you have a job that you're not satisfied with, that does not pay you enough, then freelancing might be something that you might want to consider. So if any of these qualities that I just mentioned now defines you, and it looks like freelancing might be the right or the good fit for you, then go for it, okay? But like I also said earlier, please take a sit down with yourself, do some retrospecting, okay? Do some self-evaluation and analysis. Ask yourself some very important questions. Do I have the qualities? Do I have the skills? Do I have the tools? Do I have the interest? Do I have the passion enough, to pursue the freelancing career? And like I said, please, for the last time, do not put yourself in any box, okay? Do not say it has to be tech-oriented. Do not say it has to be anything around the recommendations that we're making. You know yourself. You can't do this evaluation yourself and be sure exactly, because again, I'm not saying that everyone who's freelancing must be freelancing in the area that they love or in the area of passion. Yes, it is very important for you to work in the areas where you're most passionate about. But I've seen people who are working in industries that they are not passionate about and they are still able to make monies and be successful. It is a good place to start. It's a good place to start off working in the area where you're passionate, right? But you can still learn different skills outside your area of passion or that is relative to your passion and still do well as well. Okay, so do I need more training and troubleshooting? These are some of the questions you want to ask yourself. Do you need to train more? Find something that you need to train more. Do you need to troubleshoot to be sure that you can get into freelancing full time? Okay. Now, for some people, if you have done this evaluation and you've come up to a point where you're not so sure, right? It will be imperative for you to continue to, if you don't have a job yet, or if you already have a job, to continue your full-time job and maybe start this freelancing as a part-time or as an affiliate, okay? Whilst you are doing the freelancing, you would be able to know whether this is something I would like to do in the long term, or this is something that will work for me. And in fact, that's another reason why we're going to give as many of you the opportunity to freelance with us or to be affiliates with us, especially in the areas of sales, digital marketing, basically, or any other administrative role, depending on what we have available. You can freelance in those areas first, once you're doing your full-time job, and then check whether this thing is something that you're sure that you're cut off for. I hope that I have not emphasized or re-emphasized on some of the issues too much. The reason is because I want it to sink. I want it for you to understand in detail, to the tiniest detail, exactly what it is you should know and understand before you decide on this journey. So on the final note, like we have said, all those things that I've said in the previous slides of the presentation, all of them, especially those ones that are questions, are worthy of answers. And it's very important to be sure that you have the right answers, or all the answers to all the questions that you're going to ask before venturing into the world of freelancing. But again, freelancing is an appealing career choice. It is a cool place to be. There's liberty, there's freedom, there's independence, okay? But like all jobs, it has its own challenges. It needs dedication, it needs hard work, it needs commitment to be able to strive. So we, even as freelancers, we face similar challenges that entrepreneurs face, okay? I mean, it just generally requires some level of commitment and resilience. And again, continuous learning, absolutely, to be able to do well in the world of freelancing. So by understanding all of these realities and being sure you know your reason or you know your why, it will help you make the best and informed choice. So this is the end of my presentation. This is the end of the resource that I have for you today, but I would give you an assignment. Like I said, after every presentation, there is a requirement from your end to take action. So your assignment for this particular module is for you to write down your reason, write down your why. So based off of all these things that you've heard, what do you think will be the most important whys or reason why you would want to choose freelancing? Why in the world do you think freelancing is something for you? Why do you want to go into freelancing? What are the skills? What are the characteristics? What are the tools that you're bringing into this world of freelancing that you think will serve you well? All right, so with that being said, I will close right now. And I would expect to take your quiz. And when you send in the quiz, then we will continue after the quiz day or the next day with the next module. Thank you very much. You have any questions, you have any requests, or you have any recommendations, they'll be very much welcome. Thank you very much, and do have a good night, everyone, or good morning or good evening, depending on where you're joining from. Bye.